In this video, we are going to learn how to enhance our English by reading stories. So, we are taking a reference book 10-minute stories published by Mills Kelly Publishing Limited, UK. Hi guys, welcome to VKN English classes. So, let us get started. Today, I am going to narrate a story. Name of the story is Pinocchio is swallowed by the dogfish. The story is taken from Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. Whilst Pinocchio was swimming, he saw in the midst of the sea a rock that seemed to be made of white marble, and on it there stood a beautiful little goat who bleated lovingly and made signs to him to approach. I leave you to imagine how rapidly poor Pinoccio's heart began to beat. He swam with redoubled strength and energy towards the white rock, and he was already halfway there when he saw, rising up out of the water and coming to meet him, the horrible head of a sea monster. His wide open, cavernous mouth and his 3 rows of enormous teeth would have been terrifying to look at even in a picture. This sea monster was a gigantic dogfish. Only to think of poor Pinoccio's terror at the sight of the monster. He tried to escape, but that immense, wide open mouth came towards him with the speed of an arrow. "Be quick, Pinocchio, for pity's sake," cried the beautiful little goat, bleating, and Pinocchio swam desperately with his arms, his chest, his legs, and his feet. "Quick, Pinocchio, the monster is close upon you," and Pinocchio swam quicker than ever. He had nearly reached the rock, and the little goat, leaning over towards the sea and stretched out her forelegs to help him out of the water. But it was too late. The monster had overtaken him and, drawing in his breath, he swallowed Pinocchio. When he came to himself again, he could not in the least imagine in what world he was. All around him it was quite dark, and the darkness was so black that it seemed to him that he had fallen head downwards into an inkstand full of ink. He listened, but he could hear no noise. Only from time to time, great gusts of wind blew in his face. At first, he could not understand where the wind came from, but at last he discovered that it came out of the monster's lungs, for the dogfish suffered very much from asthma. Pinocchio began to cry and scream, and to sob out, "Help, help, will nobody come to save me?" "Who do you think could save you?" said a voice in the dark that sounded like a guitar out of tune. "Who is speaking?" asked Pinocchio, frozen with terror. "It is I. I am a poor tunny who was swallowed by the dogfish at the same time that you were. I want to get away from here. I want to escape." "Is this dogfish very big?" asked the puppet. "Big? Why, only imagine, his body is 2 miles long." without counting his tail. Whilst they were talking, Pinocchio thought that he saw a light a long way off. "What is that little light I see in the distance?" he asked. "It is most likely some companion in misfortune who is waiting, like us, to be digested. I will go and find him. Perhaps the fish could show us how to escape. I hope it may be so. With all my heart, dear puppet." Pinocchio, having left Penny, began to grope his way in the dark through the body of the dogfish, taking a step at a time in the direction of the light. The farther he advanced, the brighter became the light, and he walked until at last he reached it. There he found a little table spread out, and on it a lighted candle stuck into a green glass bottle, and seated at the table was a little old man. At this sight, Pinocchio was filled with such great and unexpected joy. At last he uttered a cry of joy, and opening his arms, he threw them around the little old man's neck and began to shout, "Oh, my dear papa, I have found you at last. I will never leave you more. Never more. Never more." "Then my eyes tell me true," said the little old man, rubbing his eyes. "Then you are really my dear Pinocchio." "Yes, yes, I am Pinocchio. Really Pinocchio. Oh, if you only knew what misfortunes have been poured on my head when I couldn't find my way back to you." Then one day the pigeon, seeing that I was crying, said to me, "I have seen your father was building a little boat to go in search of you." So we flew all night, and then in the morning the fisherman said, "There is a poor man in a boat who is on the point of being drowned, and I recognized you at once, and I made signs to you to return to land." "I also recognize you," said Geppetto, "and I would willingly have returned to the shore, but what was I to do? A great wave upset my boat, then a horrible dogfish swallowed me as if I had been a little apple tart." "And how long have you been shut up here?" asked Pinocchio. "Since that day, it must be nearly 2 years ago." "2 years, my dear Pinocchio? And how have you been managed to live? And where did you get the candle and the matches to light it?" "Stop, and I will tell you everything. In the same storm in which my boat was upset, a merchant vessel sunk. The sailors were all saved, but the vessel went to the bottom, and the dogfish swallowed it. Fortunately for me, the vessel was laden with preserved meat in tins, biscuit, bottles of wine, dried raisins, cheese, coffee, sugar, candles, and boxes of wax matches. With this, I have been able to live for 2 years. But now there is nothing left in the larder, and this candle that you see burning is the last that remains." "Then, dear little papa," said Pinocchio, "there is no time to lose. We must think of escaping through the mouth of the dogfish. I am a good swimmer, and I will carry you safely to shore. Geppetto shook his head. Do you suppose a puppet like you could have the strength to swim with me on his shoulders? Try it and you will see. Without another word, Pinocchio took the candle in his hand and going in front to light the way, he said to his father, Follow me and don't be afraid. And they walked for some time, and when they had arrived at the point where the monster's big throat began, they thought it better to stop to look around and to choose the best moment for escaping. The dogfish, being old and suffering from asthma, slept with his mouth open. Pinocchio looked up and could see a large piece of starry sky and beautiful moonlight. This is the moment to escape, he whispered. Turning to his father, the dogfish is sleeping. The sea is calm and it is as light as day. Follow me, dear Papa, and in a short time we shall be in safety. They immediately climbed up the throat of the sea monster and, having reached his immense mouth, they began to walk on tiptoe down his tongue. Before taking the final leap, the puppet said to his father, Get on my shoulders and put your arms tightly around my neck. I will take care of the rest. Then Pinocchio began to swim out of the dogfish and into the sea, where they were surrounded by fish. After a while, his strength began to fail. He was gasping and panting for breath. He could do no more, and the shore was still far off. He swam until he had no breath left. Then he turned his head to Geppetto and said in broken words, Papa, help me. I am dying. I know that voice. You are Pinocchio. Yes, and you? I am the tunny, your prison companion in the body of the dogfish. And how did you manage to escape? I followed your example and escaped after you, Tunny. You have arrived at the right moment. Please help us or we are lost. You must both take hold of my tail and leave it to me to guide you. I will take you to the shore. Geppetto and Pinocchio accepted the offer at once. But instead of holding on by his tail, they thought it would be more comfortable to get on the tunny's back. Having reached the shore, Pinocchio sprang first on land and he might help his father to do the same. He then turned to the tunny and said to him, My friend, you have saved my papa's life. I can find no words with which to thank you properly. Permit me at least to give you a kiss as a sign of my eternal gratitude. The tunny put his head out of the water and Pinocchio, kneeling on the ground, kissed him. The poor tunny felt extremely touched and ashamed to let himself be seen crying like a child. He plunged under the water and disappeared. Here the story ends. Now you should go through all the grammatical structure of the sentences like tenses, direct indirect, active passive, prepositions, etc. And read the story loudly by yourself at least 2-3 times more to enable you to understand it properly in order to improve your English. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe, like and share this channel. I will see you in my next video. Till then, bye bye. Happy learning.